Hello and a warm welcome to episode 19 of Neptune in the Zodiac signs, where we'll be finding out what your Neptune sign is. So, where it is in your horoscope, how to find it there, what it means in that position, in other words, which zodiac sign it's in. And of course, we'll also know about the others. Zodiac signs. We'll find out what it means in the other zodiac signs as well. Or rather, what it can sometimes mean. Yes, because we'll need that too when we move on to phase 1. Soon, into the practical phase, when we look at how the planets influence us every day. Neptune, like Pluto and Uranus, is a transpersonal planet and was only discovered quite late. Namely in 1846, compared to all the other planets we use in astrology. These 3 modern planets were not yet known or discovered in ancient astrology, and were also not included in the ancient, geometric, mathematical, and precise system. This is why we do take them into account here in the ancient astrology course, for the sake of completeness, but we do not actually include them in the system itself. I'll briefly show the sky chart from the last episode again. I've already talked about it there. I'll just quickly repeat that. So, we divide them into 5 personal planets, which includes the Sun. Even though it's not actually a planet, that's how it's referred to in astrology, just to keep things simple and not have to repeat it every time. Exactly, the Sun is included in that, which I'm currently circling with the mouse. Circling Mercury, the Moon, or rather, here the Earth is shown. But in astrology, we use the Moon. Then there's Mars and Venus. These are the 5 inner planets, the 5 personal ones, which are easy to observe. Or the easiest, because they influence our feelings, our thoughts, our actions, and the way we express ourselves in everyday life. Then we have the 2 impersonal planets, also called the outer planets. Here, that's Jupiter. And then Saturn. And these are the 2 that have a longer-term effect. They have a more impersonal influence, affecting life cycles, destinies, but also societal issues. And then, of course, we also have the modern planets, now, namely Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which we represent like this. Now with white planets, where AU, or rather, AP, is shown, and Neptune is already at the back, because we'll need it in a moment. And these planets are shown in white because they were not properly integrated into the ancient system. So, it doesn't fit. If you're interested in why that is and would like to see the explanations, feel free to check out the video linked below. It's called The Origin of Astrology. Right, and today we're going to focus on Neptune. In the last episode, however, it was about Uranus. And there I also went into more detail about the meaning of the transpersonal, the transcendental. I discussed the character of these 3 planets, these 3 modern planets. For anyone who hasn't seen the previous episode yet, Uranus in your zodiac sign, what it means, I'll link that below as well. That's episode 18. Yes, and today, as I said, it's all about Neptune. Neptune often stands for dreams, for imagination, for inspiration, for intuition, for the vastness. You can picture it well if you imagine an artist sitting by the sea, all alone, break time equals 0.5s/, there's no one else, just this person, sitting peacefully on the beach and looking out at the sea. While all sorts of images come flying to her, entering her imagination. And this person gets up, stands at their easel, and begins to paint these images that have, so to speak, flown into their imagination. That would be an excellent example of a Neptune influence in the best case scenario, because Neptune, of course, also stands for other things like escapism. From reality, in other words, illusion. For example, People escape into addictive behaviors in order to somehow get away from this harsh reality. And of course, this can happen in all sorts of ways, like with alcohol, or someone else goes on shopping sprees excessively. Another person escapes into food and struggles with being overweight. And these addictive behaviors are also often attributed to Neptune when it is poorly positioned. But also confusion, being in a daze, losing oneself. All sorts of things like this are considered Neptunian traits. But shall we go through it now? Let's go through each zodiac sign one by one. And there are the new Neptune lists. If you haven't received them by email yet, because you're not subscribed, for example to a newsletter, then you can find the link below in the description to the planet sign lists. There you'll find all the planet sign lists published so far, plus today's one, which is for Neptune. And you'll also find another link in the description with additional meanings. And that takes you to my website, to a page where you'll find lots more meanings. Yes, so if nothing here today fits, you can have another look there and pick out something that suits you so you can categorize it properly, so you can recognize yourself in it ideally, because as I said, we'll need that from phase 1 onwards. Right, so this is the Neptune list. At the top, where I'm circling with the mouse around the symbol, that's the Neptune symbol. And it stands, among other things, for vastness, intuition, dreams, imagination, inspiration. As we've already said, yes, also in the last episode, it also stands for higher feelings, for the higher heart, just as Uranus stands for the higher mind, for the higher intellect. And Pluto stands for higher bodily awareness, for the higher instinct. So Neptune represents the higher heart center. Right, so now let's look at how you can find Neptune in your horoscope. And if you don't have your horoscope yet, then you'll need to have it done quickly. I'll do this together with you in just a few minutes in a separate video which is also linked below in the description. Horoscope creation video. Do that because you need to know where your Neptune symbol is in your horoscope so that you know which zodiac sign it's in, so you can find out its meaning. So do that quickly and then come back here. The video is linked below. Right, so here we have the Neptune symbol, which I'm currently circling with the mouse. And in this example horoscope, it's located in Sagittarius. But we'll start with Aries. That's the symbol I'm currently circling with the mouse. Circling. And if your Neptune symbol, so this one here, is in this section, in this 30-degree section of Aries, then your Neptune sign is Aries. And that means that at the time of your birth, Neptune was in the red direction of Aries in the sky. On the bright side, this can actually mean that if the position is neutral or even favorable, if the energies flow well or there is a good, harmonious connection to other planets, it can signify intuitive action that comes directly from the heart. Yes, because Aries stands precisely for action, for doing, for taking initiative, for moving forward and making things happen. And viewed quite neutrally, perhaps not the most empathetic or compassionate, but rather assertive. Very direct, you could say. And if Neptune also has a positive influence here, then it complements things extremely well, because the impulsive, energetic Aries, who asserts themselves everywhere, he then does it with heart, and even with a higher heart. That means he stands for what is good, and that's what he fights for. For what is true, for what is good, for justice, you could also say. And that's why he is also a spiritual leader. That would be something truly wonderful here, to fight for something good, to stand up for something good, but also to energetically and, above all, successfully advance projects that serve a higher purpose. On the shadow side, however, if energies are blocked here or if planets or positions are not well placed, then there is nebulousness, impulsivity, exactly, because Neptune also stands for the foggy, for confusion. Then the impulsive Aries, Neptune in impulsive Aries, could totally lose it, acting completely irrationally and even flipping out. Fogged up, no one understands what's actually going on here. He's just completely losing it for no reason, or people simply can't understand him. He could be confused and maybe not even be able to make sense of it himself. Yes, and that could manifest itself in this way, or an escape into hyperactivity, yes, just as others might escape into shopping or alcohol. Yes, of course, that could also show itself as excessive drive to take action. Yes, you feel like you have to be doing something all the time, running from A to B, never finding any peace, and so you escape into that Aries-like behavior, into that Aries-like hyperactivity, or a dissolution of will would also be possible, because Neptune also stands for dissolution. And then the Aries, who actually possesses a strong will, a very good will, finds that this dissolves. Yes, that can also happen here, that the strong Aries willpower is dissolved. With Neptune in Aries, if it's not positively aspected. Then let's continue with Taurus. Taurus is the symbol I'm currently circling with the mouse. And if the Neptune symbol is in here, in this 30-degree section, then your Neptune sign is Taurus. And that means that at the time of your birth, Neptune was in the green section of Taurus. And on the positive side, on the light side, this can mean matter. We move on to meditation. Yes, because Taurus stands for matter, for the material, and also for values. And when the imaginative, dreamy, and intuitive Neptune falls into the material, earthy sign of Taurus, then, of course, everything can be wonderfully materialized. This is a wonderful, perfect complement when it comes to creating truly excellent, beautiful things, whether in the field of art, in craftsmanship, or really in all artistic, creative areas which, as we look further, also bring beauty into prayer, yes, and are also connected with aesthetics. This leads to truly, truly wonderful things emerging, which are made possible here thanks to Taurus. Thanks to the material, earthly Taurus, these things can be manifested. Where with someone else they might remain only in the mind or in the imagination, Taurus manages here, thanks to his earthly talents and his sense for aesthetics and art, in general, to create especially beautiful things and, indeed, to materialize them. On the shadow side, however, there is the illusion of security in material things. That would be Taurus's weak spot, the material world. And that's where he could lose himself. In accumulating all sorts of things, perhaps even in excessive shopping sprees, or generally in believing that he is safe if he has a lot. But in the end, that's just an illusion as well. And security, of course, should never be made dependent on material things or any external factors at all. Exactly, or an addiction to pleasure. So, let's continue with Gemini. This is the symbol here, the one I'm circling with the mouse. And if your Neptune symbol is in here, then your Neptune sign is Gemini. And that means that at the time of your birth, Neptune was in the orange-colored direction of Gemini, which, on the bright side, can mean the union of vision and language. Here, intuition, inspiration, dreaminess, and imagination find expression through language. And of course, this can also manifest here in everything to do with writing, with being an author, but also poetically, it can be expressed brilliantly. Because here, as it were, the alert, quick and nimble Gemini meets the dreamy and imaginative Neptune. On the shadow side, however, it can mean deception through words or lies. Yes, if you have this placement, you might want to see whether you generally have a tendency towards this. Yes, to lying, for example. But that would be encouraged here with Neptune on the shadow side if it's not well placed. Or, in general, just muddling through with little fibs here and there. Or an addiction to information. That would be another possibility, that you just throw yourself into information here. That can be just as much of an addiction as anything else, like shopping, alcohol, or drugs in general. There really are people who are addicted to information, who can't help but constantly check for news. What's happened here? What's happened there? Not within normal limits, but all the time they use it as a means of escape, and also to avoid facing certain things. And you have to see whether the healthy limit has been exceeded. Let's continue with Cancer. Cancer is the symbol here, the one I'm moving the mouse around. And if your Neptune symbol is in here, then your Neptune sign is Cancer. And that means that Neptune was in the dark blue Cancer direction at the time of your birth. Which, among other things, in its positive form can mean boundless, healing compassion, sensitivity, the power of dreams, and strong inner images. Here, so to speak, Neptune's higher feeling meets the emotional, sensitive Cancer. And if this is positively placed, then it's the ultimate in compassion, empathy, and sensitivity. That means when such a person meets someone else, they immediately know what's going on. They also instantly know how to help, because thanks to Neptune, they sense what moves the other person. Yes, and in this way, they can immediately offer help, and they intuitively know what needs to be done to make the other person feel better. But visual visions can also occur here. So, if you happen to have this in your chart, it's really worth taking a closer look. Yes, exactly, at what your dreams are like, and how your powers of imagination work in general. Yes, because there's really a lot possible there, especially perhaps in the field of art, since that also begins with imagination, for example, when painting a picture. Because you have it first in your imagination before you can express anything at all. And so, of course, things like painting could be an option, but also things like dream interpretation, clairvoyance, farsightedness, and everything that goes in that direction could be perfect for such a person. On the shadow side, however, there is emotional overwhelm. Yes, because with Neptune and Cancer, it could all become a bit too much of a good thing, what you perceive here. You go into town once and are among lots of people, and you pick up on just about everything from left, right, and everywhere. That can be overwhelming, too much to handle. Lack of boundaries, that's something you really need to learn, because you can no longer tell what belongs to someone else and what is your own. And those are the higher abilities associated with Neptune. We already discussed that in the last episode, and that would be one thing to do. Here, you learn to tell your own feelings from others, because otherwise you can't get out of it. You never know what belongs to someone else or what is your own. If you don't know that, you end up living out other people's feelings too. And unconscious manipulation. That can also happen here, of course. That you know what others are feeling, and if you act out of self-interest, not for some higher purpose, then you can manipulate things quite well, because you know how the other person ticks emotionally. Right, let's continue with the lion. The lion is the symbol here, the one I'm currently circling with the mouse. And if your Neptune symbol is in there, then your Neptune sign is Leo. And that means that Neptune was in the yellow Leo direction at the time of your birth. And that in turn means, on the light side, it transcends personal, egocentric creativity for something greater. Art, expression. Because Leo stands here for creative self-development, for the power of the heart, for self-expression, the stage, creativity, but also childlike joy of life. And Neptune, among other things, symbolizes transcendence, compassion, dreams, dissolution of the ego, but also the divine, inspiration, the longing for unity. And when Neptune is in Leo, it dissolves personal, egocentric creativity and opens it up to something greater. An art or an expression that doesn't just come from him, but through him. And that could, for example, be expressed like this. In the case of a musician who doesn't really make the music himself, but receives it. Or a painter who paints pictures that touch people so deeply inside or say so much that he himself doesn't even know why. He can't explain it at all, but he receives these messages and is able to embody them in this way. Or simply a person who loves without self-display, who simply loves because they want to love and want to spread warmth. It just flows, without wanting any profit, without wanting to puff up one's ego. On the shadow side, however, self-deception about meaning, talent. Yes, of course, you can easily fool yourself in all sorts of ways there too. Or wounded pride, victim mentality, then we'll continue with Virgo. And that's the symbol I'm currently circling with the mouse. And if your Neptune symbol is located here in this section, then your Neptune sign is Virgo. And that means that Neptune was in the orange Virgo direction at the time of birth. And in its luminous form, on the light side, this can mean intuitive healing arts, spirituality in everyday life, mysticism in language. Here, the higher feeling, the higher intuition, meets the razor-sharp intellect of Virgo once again. And this can come together very well here, especially because Virgo is also very down-to-earth, meaning very attentive and focused on the body, and particularly in matters of healing and health. Break time equals 0.5s/, it's an ideal combination, because here the earth, the body, so to speak, overlaps with intellect, with the mind, and with higher feeling. And all of this flows together energetically in a good way. Yes, something really good can come out of that. Health matters. On the shadow side, however, there is self-sacrifice in helping escape into pseudo-order or fleeing from feelings. Then we have Libra. Libra is the symbol here, the one I'm circling with the mouse right now. And if your Neptune symbol is here, in this Libra area, then your Neptune sign is Libra. And that means that at the time of your birth, Neptune was in the green Libra direction. And that in turn means, in its luminous form, selfless love, soul connections, art as an expression of the soul. Yes, with Neptune in Libra, there are certainly no superficial connections for this person. It will be very important to them that they are genuine, profound soul connections. So you definitely don't need to approach this person with anything superficial. Yes, and they can certainly express this deep, selfless love well through art, in whatever form that may be. On the shadow side, however, there are unclear boundaries, dependency in love, and glossing things over. Now let's take a look at Scorpio. This is the area I'm currently circling with the mouse. And if your Neptune symbol is in this Scorpio area, then your Neptune sign is Scorpio. And in its positive form, this can express itself, among other things, as a deep psychological understanding. Namely, a deep emotional understanding. Now, Scorpio is already emotional anyway, so they're quite in touch with their feelings, a sign of emotion. And if Neptune is also well placed here, yes, that would be a born psychologist. Yes, and the breaking down of taboos. On the shadow side, however, there is deception through manipulation. Yes, if it's badly aspected, then that's how it would be here as well. Possibly the most manipulative thing on offer here. Yes, because Scorpio is already badly aspected anyway. Already, yes, challenging, especially when it comes to power games and always having to be right. And if that's also badly aspected here, then you're most likely dealing with a manipulative person. But one who also knows exactly what they're doing, so they can also do it very consciously and deliberately use their abilities to their own advantage. Or an escape into extremes. Yes, it could also manifest like that, because Scorpio lives very intensely and really likes extremes here as well. That can definitely be a good thing up to a certain point, as long as it's balanced. It should remain balanced, but it can also serve as an escape, just like others distract themselves with shopping or eating. In this way, Neptune in Scorpio can throw itself into extremes. Adrenaline rushes, extreme stress, or other extreme situations. Then let's continue with Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the symbol here, the one I'm moving the mouse around. And if your Neptune symbol is in this 30-degree section, then your Neptune sign is Sagittarius. And that means that at the time of your birth, Neptune was in the light blue Sagittarius direction. And in its positive form, this can mean seeker of truth, optimistic mystic, philosopher of life. Yes, that can, with a good chance, with a good possibility, be a person who is searching for truth, who buries themselves in books, in old books, who reads a lot of mythology and ancient traditions, simply because they are looking for truth, searching for a higher meaning. And on the shadow side, however, there is excessive idealism, arrogant missionary zeal. What is also very possible here, however, are all sorts of addiction risks, because Sagittarius already has a predisposition for this. If Neptune is also involved, then there is, so to speak, double the risk for all kinds of addictive behaviors. Let's continue with Capricorn. It's the specific symbol that I'm currently circling with the mouse on the screen that you can see. And if your Neptune symbol is in here, then your Neptune sign is Capricorn. That means that, at the specific time of your birth, Neptune was positioned in the direction of the violet Capricorn, according to astrological tradition. And, in its positive and beneficial form, this can mean manifesting deep inspiration, as well as patient and steady implementation. Yes, this is quite similar to Taurus here. Break time equals 0.5s/, just expressed differently in its actual form, but in terms of implementation and materialization, it's very much like Taurus, in that inspiration, intuition, what is received, the visions, can be realized exactly and precisely here. And indeed, very well too, especially thanks to Capricorn's patience and perseverance. On the shadow side, however, self-deception about responsibility, escaping into structures. Yes, you can also escape into responsibility. It is indeed possible to feel responsible for so much. Yes, and then that's also a kind of running away from problems. Let's continue with Aquarius. Aquarius is the symbol here, the one I'm circling with the mouse right now. And if your Neptune symbol is located in this area of the chart, then your Neptune sign is Aquarius. This means that, at the time of your birth, Neptune was in the violet Aquarius direction. In its positive form, this placement can mean visionary humanism or a forward-thinking, humanitarian outlook. Yes, Aquarius stands for the collective, for the bigger picture, for community. And if this is very well placed with Neptune, yes, then it can truly achieve something significant here, moving large crowds, many people, to do something good, something constructive, and also fostering a sense of network consciousnness. And especially now, in today's world with networks, with online connections, break time equals 0.5s// with the internet, a person like this finds it even easier to bring their unique vision, their inspiration, to the wider public and thus also to be successful with it. That means really making a positive difference here, influencing people in a positive way, but in a constructive, supportive, and healthy manner. One could also say that Neptune in Aquarius dreams of a world where technology has a heart and spirituality is logical. And he actually manages to reconcile these things. On the shadow side, however, loss in the virtual world. Yes, that would be a classic example. Addicted to being online, perhaps addicted to gaming, or generally trapped in the virtual world. And then, further, confusion caused by over-idealization. Right, and then our Pisces, the last ones. That would be the symbol here, the one I'm circling with the mouse. And if your Neptune symbol is within this 30-degree section, then your Neptune sign is Pisces. And that means that at the time of your birth, Neptune was positioned in the light blue Pisces direction. And in turn, this can mean, in the positive sense, heightened psychic perception, dreams that serve as profound revelations, a sense of boundless and unwavering trust, and a deep, heartfelt compassion for others. Yes, here again we have the sensitive Pisces, with Neptune representing the higher feeling. There, yes, emotionally speaking, if that's well placed, it's hard to go any further. This is the ultimate, especially when it comes to dream revelations, dream interpretation, or generally consciousness within dreams. But also an incredible love for everything, for life, for other people, for animals, for the environment, for nature. Simply because you feel everything. You experience it all so intensely that you simply can't help it. These are often people who also communicate with animals. Yes, generally, of course, others as well who have Neptune well placed, or in general planets that are associated with emotions, if they are positively placed or where the energies flow well. Yes, they naturally communicate with animals through emotions, because that's simply their way of communicating. And people who are predisposed to this, well, they know it anyway, don't they? Whereas others, who feel less in that area, who are, more closed off, yes, they can't understand how, it's possible to have such a deep connection with animals, but also with nature. Although nature, of course, doesn't communicate with an emotional center, but at least with a center of being. In the negative variant, on the other hand, emotional instability, escape into dream worlds. Yes, that would be the extreme case here again. In that case, you would be, exactly, completely detached from reality, really lost in a dream world, until the harsh reality eventually brings you back down to earth. Yes, and that will probably turn out to be rather unpleasant. Exactly. Self-dissolution, loss of orientation. So now we've roughly gone through Neptune in all the zodiac signs, and in the next episode, we'll be talking about Pluto in all the zodiac signs, including in your own zodiac sign, so your Pluto sign, and what it actually means for you personally. Break time equals 0.5s/ in your own personal astrological chart. And that stands, among other things, for transformation, for intensity, but also for energy, for truth, for the depth of the soul. Alright, then I look forward to you tuning in again for the next episode, and until then, all the best. Bye bye.